Hello and welcome to Dirty Hands, Dirty Mouth, Episode 2, Hot Juicy Meat with our friend WFS Texas.
What's up?
I am your Dirty Mouth. And Juicy here is your Dirty Hands. So we're going to be talking Texas BBQ today with Tex, who is our wonderful large piece of meat from Texas. So, because you're going all in on the meat, I'm going to start off with my question here. How do you source your meat? Like, do you go to your local butcher shop? Do you go to farms? What do you do?
I actually do go to a local butcher. Great group. The people that work there, you can tell that they love working for the people. It started out as they own their own farm, and then they processed their own meat and sold it through their own butcher shop. But then as demand grew, instead of raising the cattle, they've sourced with local farms. Get good grass-fed Angus, and they also get really good American Wagyu. So, yeah, no, definitely go to the local butcher. I started out getting stuff at like Costco and stuff, but they've pretty much made me say they can hang. So, I'm supporting local.
Well, yeah, local's always good. I try to do the same, but you're probably ordering at a much bigger clip than I am. Like, I'm just buying enough meat for a year or so just for one guy. And
I'll really just run in when I need a brisket. I don't do anything in volume yet. Really just like a brisket and a couple of pork shoulders here, 5, 10 pounds of chicken there. Really just do kind of stuff for myself, stuff for friends, bespoke orders for people that know me. But definitely not in the professional way yet. That is hopefully to come in the near future, but gotta get money for that. So working on raising the funds.
yeah. So on that topic, you've mentioned that you're starting a restaurant, or at least you're planning on starting a restaurant. So, I mean, if you're doing that, like, how much meat do you figure you're going to be going through in the average week?
Well, it depends. I've done a few different spreadsheets, just to kind of figure out if I'm doing this kind of business, I'll be making this kind of money. Therefore, could afford this amount of money out for expenses. Blah de blah. Still turn a profit. But figuring possibly around 1,200 pounds a month, all told, between say brisket, chicken, sausage, ribs. Your basic staples, really. Pulled pork. That's the level that I want to get to, somewhere between 1,200 pounds to a ton of meat per month.
And you're counting a ton as like was it a metric ton, 2,000 pounds?
2,000 pounds. Yeah. Sorry, I forget. I'm American. You guys do that metric stuff.
So for those who don't know,
let's call it a metric fuck ton.
yeah, we could do that as well. For those who don't know, a typical cow, at least the one I had butchered, weighs about like just under a ton, like thereabouts. Because I got a quarter that was 240 pounds, and we're talking American tons here, like a 1,000 pounds.
2,000. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just your average cow. So he's proposing going through like a cow's worth of meat in a week, if not two of them.
Except that I'm looking at like a month.
A month.
If
Okay.
I remember how I did the spreadsheet right. That might be a week, but I'd have to go look at that spreadsheet and figure out what the hell the formula I created to do the math was. And I don't even know if that's logged in right now for me to see it. I'm using the devil's Google Sheets. It's just so damn handy, and I can get to it everywhere.
So, starting with beef, like, what kind of cow are you looking at? Like, is it kind of like just a straight grass fed, or like a grass fed grain finished?
So for the butcher that I have, it is straight grass fed. For briskets, I usually get about 15-pound briskets. I find that 15 to 16 pounds cooks real well on the Traeger pellet grill that I have. So um, typically, I'll take, say, that 15-pound brisket. I've got a full sheet tray that has a wire rack for it. Start it fat side down. I cook fat cap up. There's arguments on both sides. Some say cook with fat up. Some say cook with fat down. I say cook however it comes out the way you like it tasting. But so I'll put the rub on the underside because that's not your quote unquote presentation side. Get that coated nice and evenly. Flip it over on the wire rack on that full size sheet tray. Then do just an even just presentation layer of rub across the top. And then I actually usually let that sit in the fridge for a day or two uncovered. That lets it develop what's called a pellicle, which, like, if you've ever seen dry aged steaks, that almost has that like tacky coating on it, or if you have chicken that you left, thawed in the fridge for a little bit and you go to cook and it feels a little bit tacky. This is just an extended process of that where it lets enzymes break down. That pellicle will absorb the smoke flavor better. It also enhances the different flavors within the meat and with the way the seasoning interacts with it. Really, what drew me to it, besides my love of good food, is kind of the science behind it. Like, I geek out on the fact that, oh, if you put this with this and you add this ingredient and you let it sit over at time, it does this, and you can cook meat without even, I can technically cook meat in my refrigerator, like, because that's how you cure a ham, that's how you cure bacon. You're putting it with a high salt, high sugar blend that you then basically just flip every day for 7 or 8 days. Take it out, rinse it off, put it in the freezer for 20 minutes. You can slice it and fry it there. You can technically eat it there, like just straight, but it's not going to have a good texture at all. But after I do the cure, I actually smoke it at about 160 degrees, as low as I can, with a smoker, like a tube that holds pellets that I light with a propane torch. Then blow it out, and that puts out smoke. And I let that go for 2, 3, 4 hours to just soak up smoke into the bacon. And then you can literally like chop a hunk off of it. At that point, it's essentially the same type of product as ham. You can just carve it off and eat it cold, and it's delicious.
So by 160 degrees, you mean Fahrenheit, correct?
Yes.
So that's the equivalent of a low oven. Like that's the lowest, right around the lowest setting on most ovens. And
Mm-hmm.
then you just, how long do you cook it for?
Because 3 to 4 hours at that temp. What you're trying to do with bacon is you want it to warm through and absorb the smoke, but you don't want the fat to start to render, because if the fat starts rendering, you're basically just cooking pork belly, and it's not going to last near as long as a cold smoke. So, like, really, 160 Fahrenheit, I'm stuck there because that's the lowest my grill will go. If I could get down to 150 or 140, I would, and just let it sit for that same 3, 4 hours. Because at that point, you're just adding the flavor and soaking the smoke into the meat. You're not really cooking or anything, because the curing already did all the cooking. The food, as soon as it comes out of the curing process, is technically edible. It's just not going to be palatable.
Right, right. So I actually, as a recent, somewhat recent project, so last year I bought a side of grass-fed pork and I butchered it myself, and then I saved the belly and turned it into bacon. So I can pull some pictures up for you so you can see it here.
Yeah. Houston, we have lag. I'm just waiting for it to come up here. I have lag. Okay, yeah, that's some good looking pork right there. Do you know just regular pork, or is it a Heritage Berkshire? Oh yeah, and just almost like so Berkshire pig to me is to me I call it the Wagyu of pig because the fat through it is just so well marbled and it renders so well. Um, yeah, no, can't beat that. That's damn good looking pig. Um, okay, yeah, the ones that eat the acorns. Yeah, acorns and olives. Hmm. Almost like a boar. Nice. Yeah, speaking on the Iberico pork, I was going. It's the best pork that the average person can afford. Because that Iberico ham is insanely expensive, so I haven't tried it, but I've heard wonderful things. Oh, that's a good looking slab, dude. That bacon looks good. It just came up for me. You did well. So did you do like a an ice pan underneath it? Okay. Yeah, no. So looking at it, I think you may have rendered the fat a little bit on it,
Yeah, you can see the fat
but
rendered in the
otherwise,
pan.
for a first attempt, that's not bad at all. The tip that I'll give you next time you do it, get a jelly roll pan, like about 3 4 inches deep, that you can fill with ice cubes, and then put a rack over that, and then put the belly on top of the rack.
So it's more of a
So
cold
that
smoke.
ice, well, it helps even out temperature, um, but also as the ice melts and the water evaporates, it keeps the humidity. So the humidity also helps regulate the temperature because it slows down the way the coals can burn on an open flame type thing. Well, not necessarily open flame, but high coals in a big green egg. That's as close to open flame as you're gonna get.
Yeah, so Gary's got a question in the chat. No, what I posted there is real bacon. Bacon comes from the pork belly. It's cured and smoked. Back bacon comes from the pork loin, like where your pork chops would come from. It's just,
Ah, yeah, it's what we call Canadian
yeah,
bacon.
it's just slices of cured pork loin. That's all it is. It's much leaner. There isn't much fat there unless you get someone to leave the fat on, which is rare with pork loins.
Pardon the noise, guys. I'm going outside because that is one loud ass helicopter that doesn't sound so good. Holy fuck. One, two, three, four Chinooks, dual rotor, just went right over my fucking house. Here's hoping it's just the Texas National Guard being called back from DC. Our governor supposedly said that they need to get back and fuck off with Biden, asking them to protect DC.
Well, we wish for the best. I mean, yeah, maybe hope it's just like a drug raid or something.
Right? It was four CH-47 Chinooks, dual rotor transport helicopters.
So Tex, back to your restaurant
Yes, sorry.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to your restaurant here. So From what I've been told by various chefs and just businessmen in general, starting a restaurant is one of the hardest things you can do. Not only just securing financing, but just dealing with all the roadblocks, all the hoops you have to jump through. I mean, some people take years to start a restaurant through no fault of their own because I had one guy tell me his refrigerator techs went on strike when they were working on his cooler. I've had other people talk about like they had a lot of trouble getting the hood fans installed, or you have a lot of trouble getting your liquor license. There's one case here in town of a restaurant who was about to open, and they were getting their liquor license, and then they're called the AGLC here, Alberta Gambling and Liquor and Cannabis now. It used to be just the commission. And they pretty much told him, hey, you know what, we don't like the name of your business. It's a little too offensive, so you have to change it, like the day before they were going to open. So...
well, fuck, now we got to buy all new signs.
Yeah, so what kind of challenges do you think you're going to have to put up with starting your place? I mean, it is Texas, so it'll be a little more loose than Alberta is.
Yeah, startup is going to be a little bit easier from, like, we'll just call it the legislative standpoint. At least hopefully, with everything going on these days, you just never know. But I speculate that the process of getting it should be as simple as getting, business license. Any employees will have to have food handlers like cards. I'll have to have like kitchen manager card, as long as any other co-kitchen management. Then the biggest problem is to do, like, say, a 2,000 square foot restaurant space. So you have retail space, say, for lease in a strip center, and you lease 2,000 square feet of it, and you want to make it a restaurant. Well, now you have to do external upgrades to the plumbing to add in grease traps and such to make sure that insane amounts of grease from washing all the cooking pots and pans doesn't get in to the regular sewage system and cause larger blockages in the city. So I get that, makes sense, totally understand why you have to do it. But then you also have to, like you said, the vent hoods, the refrigeration, the coolers, the freezers, any cabinetry that's going to be like, your deli where you have, like, pickles and other other accoutrement for a sandwich or what have you, like, cold storage for stuff like that, and like mayonnaise, ketchup, and what have you, what your dressings, um, all of that. You're looking at an average cost of, in the area that I'm in, looking at $250 to $300,000 if I have to get brand new retail space and convert it to retail kitchen, like restaurant.
Yeah, what most people don't realize is that most kitchens, most restaurants use stainless steel appliances, like really, really nice stuff. You can't just get some shitty old cooler or something, because you need to have something reliable that can hold food at a regular temperature. Of course, the health inspector is going to shut you down. Like they check the temperatures of all your coolers, and they're very strict on that, at least here.
Oh yeah.
And
no, definitely here as well.
Yeah, and for a good reason. It's even basic things like storing food. So if you're storing, like Tex is saying, like things like pickles, for example, in your cooler, you're going to need a bunch of either stainless steel or plastic inserts to put inside of the cooler, just to build up your cold table. And that, of course, has to be kept at a cold temperature. And then he's going to need things like squeeze bottles for all of his sauces. He's going to need a lot of different kitchen tools, and those aren't cheap if you buy high quality.
Chairs.
Yep, yeah, and that front of house is actually where most of the money tends to be spent in most restaurants, which pisses me off, but understandably so, because you want people to be drawn in. So the kitchen most of the time is an afterthought. Like, it'll just be designed very poorly. The shape will just be weird of it. The shape of it will just be weird sometimes.
I love to cook. This kitchen will not be poor.
The difference is you're the sole proprietor, right? You're the chef owner. Most restaurants aren't chef owner because they cost a lot to start up. So you'll have like a sugar daddy or something, like a businessman, who will put forth the money, and then he'll take care of like the front of house, and then you'll get the kitchen. But he'll spend all the money designing the front of house to look really nice, and the kitchen's an afterthought. And then the design's weird. You'll have all sorts of weird corners and angles that you'll have to work with, which is never fun.
Yeah. So for funding and such, I don't. Yeah, I totally get what you're talking about. I'll either be looking into a bank loan through a very, very local bank, like they're like 6 branches, and they're all within like 30 miles of each other, and they're all run by the same guy and his son, like still family owned and operated bank. Dude actually believes in a handshake kind of thing. And as well, I even put out the GoFundMe shit. Fuck it, if other people can do it for stupid shit, why can't I do it to try to help raise money to start this? Uh, but also looking into things called safes, and I can't remember the acronym right now, but that shows Shark Tank.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah, I
they're
know of
saying,
it.
look, we'll give you X amount of money for X% of the company. So you can structure them different ways, whatever the two parties agree upon. And so what I'm hoping to find are some individuals that are willing to say, I'll take X% of the profits of the business uh, after X period of time, yada, whatever terms to make it so that uh, they get a decent share. But I'm only willing to give up to 35% of stake.
Yeah, you're just looking for minority stakeholders.
Yeah.
Because once you get a majority stakeholder, then these people are telling you what to do with the menu, and it's really a pain in the ass, and you're losing your
Yeah.
identity.
I've been listening to people for too fucking long. It's daddy's turn to talk.
I like it. I like it. What I've been told by various people is that if you want to get a bank loan for a restaurant here, the something like the vice president of the bank actually has to sign off on it because restaurants are so volatile. Something like 50% of all restaurants don't even make it past the first year.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and part of what I'm doing, it's about the only reason I'm still on Facebook is I'm beating the drum there. I'm, stirring up interest within the local community. I'm active in all the groups, and talking about, hey, who thinks barbecue needs to be here in town and blah, blah, blah. It is a very valuable networking and merchandising advertising type platform. I'll give it that, but at the cost of what it's done to humanity, I'm not so certain it's worth it.
Right, right. So, if you haven't seen it, the British version of Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay is very good, and he basically just shows restaurant owners and chefs how to do their jobs without being a jackass about it.
Yeah.
He's actually quite helpful, and you see all sorts of tricks that Ramsay uses because he's in Britain, he's not in the U.S. So he'll do things like he'll like if he's in a seaside town, he'll go to the he'll go seaside like by the beach and he'll set up a stall and he'll just give out free samples and just market the restaurant, or he'll go to like a farmer's market or something and he'll drum up interest that way. And that was back in the early 2000s. So you're doing more of a new age version of that, but yeah, definitely lots of stuff people can learn about running restaurants by watching that show. I would recommend that one. The American version of Kitchen Nightmares is horseshit. It's pure entertainment. Don't bother.
I mean, I watch it because it's fun watching some of these people who are clearly stupid get the ass chewing they deserve. I'm not watching it and taking it seriously, but I am watching it for the entertainment of watching stupid people get theirs.
Well, that stuff took off because people like feeling better than other people. Like they like feeling smarter than other people, which is why the Kardashians took off as well. Because look at how stupid they are. Well, no, actually, they're playing you to make even more money. So I mean, yeah, guilty pleasure and all
What
that.
makes it even worse with the Kardashians is then that you also have to take into account there's the people that actually idolize them.
Yeah, and that's sad stuff. Moving on, Tex. I actually
Back to
know
food.
I know very little about barbecue, so I'm just gonna see what I can get out of you just about like regional barbecues. I know it's massive in the U.S. Like you've got Texas barbecue, you got Carolina barbecue, you got like Memphis or Tennessee barbecue, St. Louis barbecue. Could you maybe just
Kansas
speak to?
City.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Could you maybe sort of speak to the differences between them?
I mean, so when you're getting into like the Memphis, the Tennessee, the Georgia, you're looking at more like a vinegar-based sauce. Uh, well, not even necessarily vinegar. Really, over there, they're big on mustard. Um, with some vinegar added. You start getting south, like Louisiana, Texas, and such. You get into, um, if you want to cheat, you can use ketchup as a starter, and then you add in, because the ketchup will bring in the vinegar that you need. And then you can add in other ingredients, other herbs, seasonings, and what have you. Some molasses, some brown sugar, some like a good Cajun blend of seasonings and spices to give it a little bit of bite. The sauce is one of the recipes that I'm still working on. I haven't found one that I absolutely love. What I've got is one that is coworker of mine's mother's sauce recipe that sounds really good. I haven't made it yet, but I do have his permission to take that recipe, play with it, and tweak it as I wish, as long as I give proper credit. So I'll say, coworkers, this sauce brought to you by coworker's mom and coworker's mother, or mom's son's loose lips.
Okay, so that's Memphis and Texas. Could you talk about like maybe like the stuff out of Missouri, like the Kansas City, the St. Louis barbecue?
Yeah, Kansas City is also kind of it's a tomato based sauce, a little less vinegar, a little more sweet. Um, so like in stores, you can buy that bottled KC masterpiece. It's loosely based on the concept. Uh, Texas barbecue, for instance, the emphasis is usually on the seasoning and the rub. So like your brisket is going to have a heavy salt, pepper, and garlic rub. For traditional Texas style. Whereas Kansas City style is going to have like some paprika, something to give it some redness, some sweetness, so maybe some brown sugar in there. I kind of blend a little bit, kind of a cross, I'd say, between kind of a Kansas City and a Texas style. So you still have that sweet, but bringing in a bit heavier pepper than, say, a Kansas City smokehouse would. Um, to give it, that Texas bite that people around here like.
And then the St. Louis barbecue?
St. Louis and Kansas City, they'll tell you they're different, but it's pretty much the same.
Okay, so to sum it up, then, like your Memphis, your Tennessee barbecue is like a more acidic sauce. It tends to be mustard with a bit of vinegar, and then Texas. I mean, you can have a little bit of ketchup in there for color, like a bit of sugar, like molasses, sugar, honey, whatever, to give it some shine. But then the spice, the Cajun spice, the heat
Yeah.
is what defines it. Then you get into Kansas City, and it's like a tomato-based sauce, paprika for color, and it's on the sweet side, so like syrupy.
I wouldn't like, not quite. They still like their seasoning, but it just doesn't have near as much vinegar, so it doesn't have quite the bite, if you will. So like your mustard vinegar from your like Georgia, your Tennessee, Memphis kind of styles, um, you're gonna have that real acidic bite because of the mustard and the vinegar and all that. Texas, you're going to have the bite from the vinegar, and then just a good blend of seasonings and flavors within the profile. You can, like, for instance, for a good Texas sauce, you would probably uh, go ahead and just get nice golden saute on some onions and garlic. Then you'd add that to the sauce base. Let that cook and stew and simmer and incorporate. Then you let it cool, run it through a blender, then run it through a sieve to take out any real, large chunks. And that's how you get that sauce. Um, Same method for Kansas City, just adding in like some honey or a little bit of molasses or some brown sugar to the sauce to take away the bite a little bit more. They have. I don't know that I necessarily call it sweet, but it's the sweetest of the options in my opinion.
I see. Okay, and when you're eating barbecue, I mean, you're pretty much going straight sweet. Like you got baked beans or like a sweet tea or something. So it's almost like a sugar overload if you put too much on the ribs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, you have your camps that believe that the ribs should have sauce glazed onto them. You have your camps that believe that ribs should be dry. And if you prefer, you may dunk them in some sauce. There are people that are the strict purists. They're like if you have to put sauce on it, what's it worth? Um, it's a very, very wide, very diverse and opinionated crowd that is barbecue, especially down here in the States.
Well,
Like not even just Texas.
Speaking of that, Tex, I got a video for you on barbecue and ribs in particular. I think you'll like it.
Okay. I have to turn on the volume on YouTube so I can hear it.
So this is Vince Wilfork. He's a retired football player. Played for the New England Patriots. He's one of those big defensive tackles. You know, like a big 300-pound man. His job is just to be fat and push people around. But he's actually really athletic. So he retired and he just went full on into Texas barbecue because he's from Texas. So yeah, I'll play the rest of this for you.
Yeah, my laughter there.
I'm on a mission to make barbecue ribs the official food of America.
Seeing him, I know there was cayenne or there's like
Luckily, I have the Kings of Q in my corner. People know I like to dance.
That shit all up in his
what you
eyes,
don't know is
spray.
I have a different dance for every single recipe. We all in Texas, you gotta go country line dancing. My legs are burning. My legs are burning. Texas style. Boiled ribs? Who the do that? You insulting my intelligence. Get the out of my face. Boiled ribs? Spare ribs come from the lower part of the pig. So that means you gotta get low. Check out all your meat and bring it back up. Never thought I ever hear the day somebody boil ribs. How you gonna explain that to your kids about barbecuing? You don't boil ribs. Join me, Vince Wilfork, and Kingsford on our mission to make barbecue ribs the official American food. Show your support for slow smoked barbecue ribs by signing our petition.
Yeah, he's a pretty funny guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this guy out.
So you have posted just a ton of pictures over the past couple of months, all the barbecue stuff you're doing, and you've just been outshining me and anybody else who's doing the homesteading stuff in the Discord. So I have to post some of it because people are going nuts over this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the rub goes on before it goes into the refrigerator to develop the pellicle. So all of that is interacting with each other. So that is, looking at that, that's probably about halfway. Well, no, that's actually fairly fresh on the cook. I can tell from that smoke tube. The entrance to the smoke tube I put into the back of the smoker, and the tube burns for about 4 hours. So that's probably about 30 minutes into a cook. So that's why some of the spots look a little more wet than others. But also some areas drew a little, the rub mix that was on it would have drawn a little bit more of the fluid out of the meat. So they did look a little bit darker to start as well.
Well, I've got another photo here. This is looks like it came out of the oven and it just looks gorgeous.
Oh, that did not come out of the oven. That was smoked. So that's 2 pork shoulders.
Oh, forgive me.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Now I smoked those shortly before my hernia repair surgery that I had at the end of December. I was like, well, I've got them. Might as well fucking cook them. Ow, ow, ow.
Kind of bittersweet then, eh?
Yeah, but ended up. I've still got pouches of it that I vacuum sealed and that are in the freezer. Take them out, put them in a water bath at about 155 Fahrenheit, and let it sit there for about 45, 50 minutes so it comes up. Well, the way I do it, I'll put the water in the pot, put the bag in the pot with the water, and when the temperature in the pot has been at 155 overall for at least 45, 50 minutes, it's usually good to just pull it out of the bag and it tastes as good as the day as it came off the smoker after being vacuum sealed and then frozen.
Yeah, you can really see the difference that the bellicle made there. It's just got that crust to it that's just beautiful.
Yeah, and so with the way I do a spritz that is pretty heavy on apple juice, some soy sauce, some Worcestershire. Uh, I'm trying to think of what seasonings I usually throw into it, and I'm drawing a blank on them right now. I'd have to be looking at my spice rack, which is actually the entire back of my pantry door. That's my spice rack. I buy seasonings like women buy shoes. Um, but it almost is like, you ever had like a honey glazed ham,
Yep,
like
I've had that.
where it has that candied coating on the outside.
Yep, yep.
That's so my bark is almost more of a candied kind of thing. So it gives a lot of sweetness to it, but I make sure to have a good amount of spice and heat to balance that out and make it a neat, even flavor profile. So that turned into pulled pork, tastes like heaven.
I believe it. So I've got more picks. We'll go to some pork ribs next. So these are about to go into the smoker, right?
Let's see, waiting on it to come up here. I don't have too bad of a delay on the YouTube feed, but just a little bit. So let me just wait for it to transition on my end. Yeah, that appears to be 2 racks of St. Louis spare ribs. How long ago did I post that?
I don't know. I didn't. I just did a search of your username and then just went through and grabbed
Oh
all the
no, you're
pictures I
good.
could.
You're good. I'm just trying to think because I also did some baby back ribs recently, and I remember that one of the racks of the baby backs had a little notch in it, so I think that might actually be baby backs. Those didn't. They turned out okay, but I didn't really like them overall. Baby backs are tough ones to get right. You either get them, cooked really well or overcooked. Overcooked is when it falls off the bone. You really want it to have almost. Oh yeah, those were definitely the baby backs because that's the brisket that I smoked at the
Yeah,
same
yeah, that's
time
the
as them.
brisket, and then I've got another picture to follow that. It's the whole set of them in the smoker together.
Yeah, and so the brisket went and the ribs all went in at about the same time. The ribs came off after about 6, 7 hours. The brisket went actually cooked a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. I actually took it off at like 2 in the morning. I had figured it was going to be coming off at like 11 a.m., but it came up to temp quick. So what can you do? Um, this one, not one of my proudest cooks. It looks gorgeous. I'll give it that. But the spritz that I did, I went with the wild hair and I put some sriracha into it. It tasted great on the pork, but I ended up that brisket that you see there was a $100 US lesson that didn't even get fed to the dogs.
Yeah, you guys are big on brisket down there. Not so much up here. Brisket's not cheap compared to, say, like a pork shoulder or something. A pork shoulder you can get for like $5 or $6 a kilo, sometimes even cheaper. But brisket, you're looking like if you go wholesale, like you can maybe get a brisket for under $10 a kilo. But at like a butcher shop brisket, you're probably looking more like 12 or $14 a kilo.
Yeah,
It's a shame
yeah,
because it's another one of those cuts that people grew up with, knowing it was a cheap cut of meat, so cook the crap out of it, like pork belly, and other cuts. And what's happened is enough people figured out, hey, this is a good cut for just like an average working family, right? So
Yeah.
chefs figured it out, and they all started buying up, and all of a sudden it's expensive because everybody wants it. Oxtail's another one. Like
Yeah, I can see that.
it's kind of frustrating going back and watching old like British cooking videos, and they talk about the pork belly, like a nice crackling pork belly is a cheap cut of meat. And you look at it now, like ever since you had all these Asian immigrants coming into North America, that's their favorite cut of meat. Like they eat that shit every day, so it's not
Yeah.
even close to affordable anymore.
Did we have any other picks of mine to
Yes,
run
yeah.
through?
This is. It looks like a prime rib. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a 3-bone rib roast. That was actually American Wagyu, and I made that as samples to give out to folks interested in my idea and what I'm trying to put together.
So could you maybe explain what Wagyu beef is for the audience here?
So Wagyu is it originated in Japan, and they basically just pamper the hell out of these cows their entire lives. They get massages, they're fed beer, heavy grain diet, so that they build up a intramuscular marbling. So you see how there's that traditional kind of prime rib marbling and strips of fat, but what you can't see because of how far along in the cook that is within the meat itself. It's just got pockets and little veins of marbling. This just the way it renders, it just the meat is like butter.
Yeah, Wagyu is like it's got veins like a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cut of meat, and I've heard it's got upwards of like 80% fat to it. It's yeah, like you said, it's like meat butter. Um,
Yeah, for some of the very very highest grade Japanese authentic wagyu, certainly it looks like white with little speckles of muscle.
as far as I know, it's illegal to import Japanese Wagyu into Canada. I don't know about the U.S., but I know we have
You
farmers
can
here
get
who
it
try
here
to
in this.
yeah we have farmers here who try to do like a Wagyu style. Like they'll do a cross with
Crossbreed.
yeah, like there's a Holstein Wagyu cross here in town that people seem to like, but it's still going for like 60-70 bucks a kilo.
Yeah, no, it is pricey. This for this American, I want to say it's an Angus and Wagyu blend. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, with that said, I mean that covers the majority of my questions. Juicy, you want to hop in here?
I'm kind of overwhelmed with Texas's pictures. I'm getting hungry. We were talking about brine the other night, actually, and you were saying that you brine your meat. If you could kind of go over what the process of brining is.
Yeah, and so I can't recall any of my specific recipes off the top of my head. Um, but say like I have one that's a buttermilk marinade, but it's basically like 2 cups salt to like 2 tablespoons, or shit, not 2 cups, Jesus. Daddy's drunk again, children, watch out. Um, no, it's like 2 cups of buttermilk to like 2 tablespoons of coarse kosher salt. And you can use that to do about 3 pounds of chicken. But you let it sit in that, and I'll also add to that like some lemon zest to give it a little bit of zing. I'll usually throw in like some Frank's Red Hot, like a hot, just a regular table hot sauce, like Tabasco type thing, whatever. Um, just again to give it that little bit of heat, little bit of flavor and kick and wow factor, if you will. But I'll let it sit in that buttermilk marinade, but it's essentially a brine. Same thing. A brine is just another type of way to say you're marinating. Whereas your typical marinades are like a thick, glazy, or like soy type sauce based, Worcestershire based kind of thing. This is more liquid to solid, if you will. Higher liquid, less salt, less concentrated flavors, more subtle. Um, but that buttermilk chicken, you put it in the oven and you do that about 425 um, Fahrenheit for the first 15 minutes with the legs pointed into the back left corner of the oven. After that, bring the temperature down to 425. Move the pan so that it's got the legs in the right rear corner of the chicken to keep of the oven. To keep the browning nice and even across it, and then you can basically it takes about an hour to cook, and you come out with expect an hour to cook if you spatchcock the chicken. So cut the spine out and flatten it. Um, but you do that, and I promise you will love this chicken. Play with the basic recipe, and have fun with it. Add in spices, herbs, things that you enjoy. I haven't found a way to cook it that was bad yet. I've smoked it, I've roasted it, I've done it. So I made up a a seasoned flour dredge. Took it out of the buttermilk marinade, dredged it in flour, and then basically had a big Tupperware, a Rubbermaid tub type thing, with a layer of the flour on it. Built up a layer of chicken, built up another light layer of the flour, layer of chicken, just till I was done with it was skin on, boneless thighs. But I just layered it like that, and then I let it sit and develop a pellicle, basically wrapped, like just encased in the flour, and then brought that out and fried it. Dude. I'm trying not to drool on my shirt right now, just thinking about how good that chicken was when I fried it like that.
So we got a question from the chat here. Sean from PA wants to know what a brine is. So what I was taught in culinary school is that a brine tends to be, and it doesn't have to, it tends to be like a saline solution. So like a 3 to 5% by volume, like salt to water. And you just dissolve that, and it's used to both season and bring moisture into whatever you're brining. So a lot of people will brine poultry like chicken or turkey or something. Turkey tends to be for a couple days. Chicken will be something like overnight. But you can also, I've seen people brine pork chops. Yeah, basically the idea is you want to introduce moisture. So if you've got a pork chop that maybe doesn't have the best fat cover on it, you need some moisture, you can brine it, and that'll do it. Chicken, like if you're doing chicken breast in particular, there's nothing there for fat except for the skin. Most of the time it doesn't come with the skin, so you need to give it some sort of moisture, some sort of flavor. So if you do overcook it, it's not bone dry.
No. Well, and like, I had a thought and I just lost it because I happened to catch Dub in the chat talking about his new mic that he's going to be trying out. I lost my thought and it's not coming back.
I've also heard of people brining fish for fish and chips. I've had some of that. It's quite good.
I can see that. Like a lot of folks like doing kind of a pickle juice brine for chicken as well.
Dubs actually did that one time.
So,
he did pickle brined chicken wings. He said they were quite nice.
Yeah. The vinegar and salt in the pickle juice does good things with the meat.
Plus, you get the sugar as well.
Very true. Yeah. And just a heads up, I do have a little more time in me, but I do need to help Annie around the house. Sorry to turn it into a short stream. And Juicy, if you've got more questions, I will definitely be glad to come on again and answer as many as I can. But the folks that are on the Discord server, feel free to reach out. I chat on there frequently. I've got time for a couple more questions. I just wanted to give you a heads up that I am on a bit of a timer.
Well, what we can do is I have another video for you. Some nice Texas humor. I think it's like 3 minutes long, so we can put that on and then go from there.
Okay.
This is just one more way that the media.
So every time I turn on the volume and hear myself, I hate my own voice.
They're evil.
Yeah, I think we all have the same feeling.
So this is
that's not what I sound like.
This is a guy by the name of Mark Ripto. He's like a famous sort of strength coach from Texas. Like he's small town Texas by the Oklahoma border, and he's very politically incorrect. So here's a little compilation of him being just that. It's pretty funny.
Just looking at him, I like him already.
Stay away from them. Don't talk to the media. Don't absorb the media. Don't believe anything they say, ever. Because they're pieces of shit. All right? I hope that's clear. I don't understand it. I've got a different attitude toward porn than everybody else does, I guess. I just think it's art. I'm not into hookers anymore, Chase.
Louder for the people in the back, sir.
It's been a while. Last podcast when we talked about smoking. Some of you got offended, I'm sure. And, fuck you. I just, to continue on that theme. When Nick and I were talking, what is this 2016? And you people under the age of 50 are still starting to smoke? What in the hell are you thinking about? And I think if you smoke, you're a fucking pussy. That's what I think. Here's what I really think. Now, this is about guys. I think if guys put something round in their mouth and suck on it, that's a problem. So I think cigars are a bigger problem than cigarettes. But I think you put something round in your mouth and suck on it,
but okay.
That you're different than me. Okay? I don't need to comment on the health aspects of it. You already know that. You just have decided that at one point, when you started, that you didn't care.
He better not ever drink a beer out of a long neck bottle, because that's round and he's putting it in his mouth and sucking it dry.
The reason you still smoke is because you're just too big a fucking pussy to quit.
In my opinion, everybody ought to look more like me. And I'm being completely serious about that. You too.
Okay.
All right. You look like an Arab terrorist.
Yes.
And if it puzzles me that you can go through an airport. All that means,
I think I just figured out how the character Ron Swanson
it means that
was
the
created.
TSA is once again not doing their fucking job.
Can't profile, right?
Can't profile.
A lot of vegans are little bone skinny people. They'd be, so if the feminist was the fattest, I'd just eat her or him first. They're a male feminist.
This is
I myself am a male feminist, and I'm kind of fat. I might have to self. What would that be called when you eat yourself? No, it's autophagia or something like that. I just made that word up, but I think that may be right. That may be what it's called when one eats oneself. But
is that a common problem?
Look, Tom, but this raises a larger question, okay? And the larger question is, would I eat human flesh? Yes.
Eating oneself, quite flexible.
Yeah, he's a legend. He's a legend for a reason. He's become a meme at this point. So if that's good for you, Tex, we'll just throw up the screen here. So Juicy and I both have PO boxes. If you guys want to send us stuff, you want us to play around with some stuff, that's where you can send it to. Tex fan, thanks for coming on. I know we learned a lot. I know Juicy didn't talk much, but I'm sure she's taking a ton of notes. So
I am not taking notes. I'm just listening.
She recorded it for later.
Okay, whatever you want to call it. But, we quite enjoyed having you on today, and
hey, like I said, happy to come on again another time. I'm sure we can find other topics to talk about. This thing for me trying to do the barbecue business takes off. I can tell you all about the joke, whether or not I fucked myself royally.
We actually, my old man and I want to pick the brain about smokers, so as we come into this thing, we'll have you on.
Fair, sounds good. We'll plan to talk about smokers. I'll see if I can bone up and try to find a way to actually sound like I know what I'm talking about when it comes to creating and building your own.
Bone up then.
Damn you for making me read and learn and strengthen my knowledge, woman. Where's my
Get
sandwich?
better, man. Get better.
okay, guys, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.